So, picture this, clear blue skies over Rome, sunlight glinting off marble rooftops, and, wait for it, not one but two national air forces painting the heavens in red, white, green, and blue. That's how King Charles and Queen Camilla's state visit to Italy kicked off, with the kind of cinematic spectacle that even Netflix couldn't stage better. The Red Arrows, Britain's pride of the Royal Air Force, soared side by side with Italy's Frex Tricolori, their dazzling aerobatic counterpart. Together, they carved ribbons of color over the Quirinal Palace, home of Italian President Sergio Mattarella. It was the diplomatic equivalent of a duet, two proud nations harmonizing in perfect formation. And make no mistake, this wasn't just for show. Every loop and plume of smoke carried a message: unity, friendship, and shared purpose between two of Europe's oldest cultural powers. It was soft diplomacy at 30,000 feet. But beyond the aerial acrobatics, this visit had layers: history, politics, personal symbolism, and of course, a touch of royal charm and tension that never seems far from Charles's public appearances these days. Let's unpack it. This Italian visit marks one of King Charles's most significant state trips since his coronation, and it's happening at a crucial time. After months of speculation about his health and lingering palace drama, yes, we're looking at you, Prince Andrew. This visit serves as a statement. The king is very much back in the saddle. Charles has always been a lover of art, architecture, and European culture. Few monarchs have spoken so passionately about Renaissance design or Roman history. So returning to Italy, not as the Prince of Wales but as the King of the United Kingdom, carries personal resonance. Italy, too, is no casual backdrop. This is a nation that embodies beauty, history, and diplomacy, all things Charles has spent decades championing. So for him, this trip is part pilgrimage, part performance. And in true royal fashion, it began with pomp that only the British and Italians could pull off. The royal couple's official welcome at the Quirinal Palace in Rome was the kind of ceremony that could make even seasoned diplomats tear up a bit. President Sergio Mattarella, one of Europe's most respected statesmen, greeted Charles and Camilla alongside his daughter Laura Mattarella, who has gracefully stepped into the role of Italy's First Lady since her mother's passing. The atmosphere was solemn but warm, respectful of tradition, yet touched with modern empathy. Laura's presence added humanity to the formality. Her quiet composure complemented Camilla's poised warmth perfectly. As the red carpet rolled out under the Italian sun, the national anthems of both countries filled the courtyard. The Union Jack fluttered alongside Italy's tricolor flag, a visual reminder that post-Brexit Britain can still be Europe's friend, at least symbolically. Military horses lined the route, guards stood to attention, and Charles, dressed in tailored morning suit and sky blue tie, looked every inch the global statesman. Camilla, in pale cream, elegant, appropriate, and showy, matched the tone perfectly. This wasn't glamour. It was gravitas. Royal diplomacy runs on subtle messages, and this trip was packed with them. The fly past, the flags, the anthems, they're all part of a centuries-old playbook designed to say, without words, we see you, we respect you, we remember our shared past. The red arrows flying beside the Frex Tricolori was particularly rich in meaning. It wasn't just a cool photo op, it was an airborne metaphor for renewed unity amid division. Think about it, the UK has spent the last several years redefining its identity post-Brexit. The Italian economy and political landscape, meanwhile, have faced their own waves of instability. Both nations have reason to show the world that they are still part of the same Western alliance, partners in diplomacy, culture, and defense. So, the message painted in the sky was crystal clear. Whatever turbulence Europe faces, the UK and Italy remain aligned in spirit. And it's not just political. Charles has always loved Italy. He's vacationed in Tuscany, studied architecture in Florence, and collected Italian art. There's an emotional connection here. For him, this isn't just another state visit. It's a love letter to the cultural heart of Europe. Let's pause for a second to appreciate Queen Camilla's evolution. A few years ago, royal watchers might have wondered whether she'd ever fully inhabit the queen role, whether she'd remain forever in the shadow of Diana's memory. But here in Rome, Camilla looked utterly at ease. She's mastered that delicate balance of approachability and regality. Her demeanor at the palace, gracious, calm, attentive, reflected a woman comfortable in her skin and her crown. Laura Mattarella's presence offered a perfect counterpart. The two women, both survivors of personal tragedy, carried the occasion with understated grace. Their chemistry, quiet smiles, shared glances, symbolized something Charles has always valued: soft power through empathy. While Charles speaks the language of heritage and duty, Camilla embodies the subtler diplomacy of warmth and steadiness. Together, they make an effective team, not flashy, but deeply human. On paper, this is a ceremonial visit, all ribbons, receptions, and formal dinners. But underneath the surface, it's strategically timed. Britain and Italy, despite both being Western allies, have had somewhat tepid relations since Brexit. Italy's new political leadership under Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni represents a populist turn that Britain's diplomats must navigate carefully. Charles, of course, can't comment on politics directly. But royal visits are designed to set tone and rebuild goodwill where traditional diplomacy might struggle. That's why this trip is so loaded with meaning. The images of the king and queen being embraced in Rome, flags waving, horses prancing, crowds cheering, tell a story that transcends policy. It says, Britain still belongs to Europe, if not politically, then culturally, historically, emotionally. And that's exactly the kind of soft influence Charles has always excelled at cultivating. Visually, the day couldn't have gone better. The sun cooperated, the flags caught the breeze, and the choreography was flawless. This might sound trivial, but in royal world building, optics are policy. The sight of Charles and Camilla standing proudly beside Italy's president, with military precision and musical ceremony, reinforced stability, something Britain desperately wants to project right now. For a monarchy still recovering from a year of bad headlines, from Harry's memoir to the Andrew fallout, this visit felt like a reset. A chance to show the world that the crown still carries dignity and purpose, that Charles is capable of uniting rather than dividing. And honestly, the symbolism works. Because if the monarchy is, at its core, about continuity and connection, then there's no better image than the red arrows and Frex tricolori flying together over Rome, a moment of beauty in a world that could use a little more of it. King Charles's approach to diplomacy is cerebral but heartfelt. He's not the grand showman his mother was, nor the stoic traditionalist his father embodied. He's something in between, the intellectual monarch who wants to understand as much as he wants to represent. So while the ceremonies make for pretty pictures, Charles's real focus is often on the human and cultural undercurrents. He's likely thinking about shared environmental initiatives, heritage conservation, or even interfaith dialogue, especially with the Vatican visit on his itinerary this week. This is the big picture Charles loves, connecting dots between faith, art, ecology, and diplomacy. It's his brand of modern monarchy, less about glamour, more about gravity. But don't mistake that for dullness. He understands performance. Every handshake, every bowed head, every speech reference is layered with intent. When he stands before a foreign anthem or places a hand over his heart, he's performing centuries of history while gently rewriting them for the 21st century. Of course, no royal trip unfolds in a vacuum. While Charles and Camilla are basking in Roman sunshine, the British press back home is still buzzing about family divisions, political gridlock, and cost of living frustrations. So this state visit is as much about optics at home as it is abroad. It's a reminder to the British public, and the Commonwealth, that their monarch isn't just a ceremonial relic. He's a working head of state with global reach. It also subtly reframes the royal narrative. Instead of scandal, duty. Instead of tabloid feuds, tradition. And credit where it's due, the Italians know how to stage a welcome that makes anyone look like a legend. The Quirinal Palace, with its Renaissance courtyards and grand staircases, is pure theatre. For Charles, a man who loves architecture, it's practically paradise. There's something undeniably magical about state ceremonies, the mix of precision, heritage, and emotion. And this one hit every note. The horses, the brass bands, the marching soldiers, they weren't just decorations. They are the physical embodiment of centuries of continuity. They remind everyone watching that monarchy, for all its anachronisms, still has a role, to represent the intangible, history, identity, connection. And it's those intangibles that Charles is so good at channeling. He's not flashy, but he's profoundly symbolic. Every carefully chosen word and gesture on this trip reinforces one message. The monarchy is not just surviving, it's evolving with purpose. If there's one thing this trip has highlighted, it's how solid the Charles-Camilla partnership has become. Gone are the days when she was cast as the other woman. Now, she's the steady heartbeat of the monarchy's modern face. Watching them together in Rome, exchanging smiles during the anthems, walking side by side on the red carpet, you get the sense of a couple in sync. It's not romance for the cameras, it's mutual respect forged through decades of scrutiny. And that steadiness matters. Because at a time when so many royal narratives, from Harry and Meghan to Andrew, are defined by chaos, Charles and Camilla offer a picture of endurance. There's also a poetic quality to this visit that shouldn't be overlooked. The setting, the Italian spring, the Renaissance palaces, the open blue sky, mirrors what Charles has always believed, that beauty itself can be a form of diplomacy. He's long argued that architecture, art, and culture can bridge divides more powerfully than politics. And this trip, bathed in sunlight and ceremonial splendor, is a living illustration of that philosophy. The flypast wasn't just entertainment, it was aesthetic storytelling. The two formations painting unity into the sky echoed everything Charles stands for: tradition meeting renewal, difference harmonized through grace. In that sense, the day's imagery wasn't just beautiful. It was strategic art, soft power rendered in smoke trails and sunlight. This Italian visit is only the first leg of a much deeper royal agenda, one that will soon see Charles head to the Vatican for an unprecedented joint prayer with Pope Leo XIV. So in many ways, this grand entrance in Rome was the prelude to something even bigger, a moment of spiritual diplomacy that could define his reign. And that's what makes this visit so fascinating. It's not just about British-Italian friendship. It's about Charles crafting his legacy, as a king who uses ceremony not for spectacle, but for storytelling. So let's end where we began, with that sky. Two sets of planes, two nations, two colors weaving together in perfect synchronicity. It was fleeting, yes, just minutes of aerobatic grace, but in those moments, Charles's mission as king came vividly to life. Because that's what he's trying to do, really, to bring old institutions, wounded nations, and divided families back into formation. To make something harmonious out of all the turbulence. And if that's not the ultimate royal metaphor, what is? The first day of King Charles and Queen Camilla's state visit to Italy was pure symbolism, a mix of historic gravity and personal warmth. From the flypast over Rome to the stately welcome at the Quirinal Palace, it sent one message loud and clear: Britain still knows how to show up, and Charles still knows how to lead with grace. He's the monarch who looks backward and forward at the same time, honoring heritage while gently reshaping what monarchy means. And as those jets traced their patterns in the Roman sky, it was hard not to feel that, for all the drama, all the scandals, all the noise, the British monarchy still has the power to take your breath away. So, what do you guys think? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I read them all. And if you enjoyed this royal deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a drop of royal reality.